Welcome to our backyard. This is the Backyard Philosophy Podcast. We are two friends having a discussion after everyone else has passed out or gone to bed. Grab a drink and listen as we discuss everything from automation, space exploration, and why the meaning of life is 42. We're going to talk about risk management in our personal lives and what's killing Americans today. But first, Mike, what unhealthy habit are you doing today? What are you drinking?
I was drinking energy drink and vodka, but I kind of switched to just vodka and ice. So that's my unhealthy habit. What about you, Nick? What are you drinking?
Oh, you're cutting it with water, so it's not that bad. And, hydration is important. I am drinking Black Rifle coffee and Jim Beam, so
Two things I absolutely love.
So risk management is something that we all do every day, and there's inherent risks in everything that we do. And you said something in a podcast a while ago that I also do when you talked about if you're going to be in an accident, how you put your hands at the 10 and 2 because you won't hurt your wrist and you have your thumbs on the outside, or you won't hurt as much compared to if you have them at like the gangster style on top or on the bottom when the airbag comes out.
Well, I don't want to do that, Nick. I want to put my leisurely hand on top when I'm about to be in an accident. I like the 10 and 2 because I don't want to turn out like you and have T-Rex arms for a while.
Yep. And risk management is something that we all do every day. And I just wanted to talk about, things what's killing Americans and the risks that we face in our everyday life. Things that we don't really know are dangerous and do all the time. But I thought we'd start through with the leading cause of death. So this is for 2018. The leading cause of death in the United States is heart disease with 655,381 deaths for 2018.
That is a lot of people.
That is a lot of people. And a lot of the problem stem from heart disease. Just like anything else, there's variable problems. Genetics plays a really important factor, but also exercise, which is something that we'll kind of see as this list goes on. Obesity plays into that. People who are unhealthy are more likely to experience heart disease.
I'm not gonna lie, Nick. We were just talking about bacon cheeseburgers, or at least I was, and now we're talking about heart disease. I now feel sad.
Well, I had a strip of bacon this morning for breakfast, so I'm not one to talk, but I also exercised today, so I earned that bacon. So the next is cancer with 599,274 deaths.
That's a sad, depressing number.
Yep, and cancer, another variable cause one, genetics, location, everything kind of what quality of life comes down to can impacting whether or not you get cancer. It's pretty variable, and that's kind of why these are so high, that there's a lot of things that lead to one faction. If you narrow down to one type of cancer, it wouldn't be as bad, but combine all of them together, and that's where your big number's coming from.
Every little thing adds up together.
Number 3 is accidents and unintentional injuries. So this is everything from car accidents to workplace accidents. And this is something I kind of want to talk about just because I feel like this is where the average American is likely to overlook. It's the third leading cause of death of accidents and unintentional injuries in the U.S. There can be a lot of causes of that, just people not paying attention on the road, texting and driving, people driving drunk, or just, in workplace injuries, just working in a dangerous environment. But I think most Americans don't think twice about getting into a car and what that entails. This is the third most common cause of death in the United States. A lot of people don't wear seatbelts, which is fine. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But you got to, know the risks. It's not, nothing in life is guaranteed. We do a lot to prevent a lot of deaths in the United States. And I'm not saying everyone needs to be, forced at gunpoint to wear a seatbelt and drive 35 miles an hour. This is one of those things where there's an inherent risk in driving fast. You're more likely to die in an accident. But no one's going to drive 25, 30 miles an hour across Montana. That's just not going to happen. And because we're so used to it, we don't really think twice about the risks of it.
Something we do so ordinarily and ordained that it becomes second habit, and we forget about the actual dangers that entails it. And like you said, Nick, we could do a lot of little things to help that.
So fourth is chronic lower respiratory disease, 159,486,000 deaths. Again, another.
What is that? Medical is not my forte. I don't know what that is.
This is it includes, asthma kind of stuff.
Just respiratory diseases kind of in general?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. It's another good one.
Bronchitis?
Yeah.
Does ammonia fall into that?
Pulmonary disease, emphysema, like you said, bronchitis. And most of these are brought on through smoking.
Mm.
So most 80% of this, so that would be of the 159,486, 80% of those deaths are due to smoking.
Jesus.
So do some quick math here. That's 127,588 deaths from smoking.
That's a lot of people.
Next on the list is Alzheimer's with 122,019 deaths for 2018. And this is kind of unknown. There's people don't really know exactly who gets it and who doesn't. They can't really tell if it's genetics. It seems like some people can say it's very clearly genetics, but they're having trouble tracking it down. So there's a lot of different causes of Alzheimer's. Next on the list, dropping it down, is diabetes, which is 84,946.
Which, if I have to say, I would say it ties into heart disease quite well, because I imagine if you're at risk for one, you probably be at risk for the other for certain types of diabetes.
Yeah. So diabetes ties into heart disease as well as cancer, chronic lower respiratory disease, stroke, and, depending on who you ask, Alzheimer's as well.
Everything's always connected, Nick, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is kind of what I wanted to talk about. As Americans, we are incredibly concerned about every single thing and how it impacts our body. We're seeing that in the green movement, for food, organic, non-GMO. Everything needs to be super healthy. Yet at the same time, we're one of the fattest countries who have a predominantly sedentary life and don't exercise. We're doing half of the work here. We're getting the diet right, which is definitely important. But if we don't exercise, you can eat great food all the time, and it's not going to work out.
Yeah, you got to move. Diet's only a part of the puzzle. You need exercise to finish it off.
Underneath diabetes is the flu and pneumonia, with 59,120 deaths a year.
It's amazing we're still dying to something as simple as the flu.
Again, that's predominantly older people die of the flu, and we all know how that kind of works out now. In 2020, we're well versed in viruses. Yeah.
Diseases going after older people.
And then this is a surprising one to me, Mike. Nephritis and nephrotic syndrome and nephrosis, 51,386 deaths. It's essentially like a tissue-killing disease.
Is it like when you get infected or something like that, and it like leaks into your blood system?
So what it is it comes from your kidney. So when your kidney is damaged, that it can't filter out all the stuff that your kidney normally filters out, so waste and water, and it passes that on to the rest of your body, and it just kind of causes swelling and weight gain. I don't know, it was a surprising one. It's not something that I've heard about.
Yeah, same. It's amazing how something that's killing hundreds of thousands of people, I don't think I've ever heard of before.
Yeah, and so it is on the list, and I was like, I don't even know what that is.
You learn something every day, Nick, don't you?
Yep. And then finally, at 48,344 deaths, is suicide.
For some reason, that one does not surprise me.
Yep, and I think that one has only gone up since 2018, so might be a little bit higher now.
Oh, I imagine it has to be much higher now.
So I want to run through that and just kind of get an idea of what is plaguing Americans specifically, just because this is mortality for the United States. It's probably pretty similar in other countries. I didn't really look too much into it, but in our world today, everyone is freaking out about everything, like we talked about, whether it be what they're eating, where they're going, what's in them. I mean, look at California. Every single product you buy in California says this may or may not cause cancer. We're vastly concerned about all these things, but to me, after seeing this, the number one thing I saw, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of genetics that go into diabetes and stuff and being overweight, is just physical exercise and being healthy can vastly reduce your chances of dying from any of these high level leading causes of death.
The fundamentals: eat healthy, sleep well, and exercise. It kind of covers all the bases.
Yeah, and can probably reduce risk of suicide as well, which diabetes also plays a factor, and kind of surprised me, but kind of didn't, I guess. It makes sense.
Well, and to me, exercise has always been a outlet, so I imagine it's an outlet for a lot of people. And I don't know about you, Nick. I might hate working out, but after I'm done working out, I feel great, fantastic. my chemicals, my endorphins are increased. So I imagine that's got to help with suicide, or at least it does with me.
Exactly. But there's other things I want to talk about too. So, what can people do every day to prevent not just their death, but the deaths of those around them? Well, with heart disease and killing 655,381, stroke killing 147,810 people a day, some of the two big ones right there is just learn to, take like a CPR class where you learn how to do CPR, but also recognize the signs of stroke. That's something that we can do every day or just, once a month. Most employers put it on, so that's something that a lot of Americans are well versed in.
It seems very only you can prevent wildfires, but it is true. If you know how to help people in a dire situation, you can truly help people. And something as simple of knowing to do the stroke victim, or if someone's heavily bleeding, or just know how to do something and be useful. I mean, it's useful. It helps everybody.
Yeah, so signs of a stroke include sudden numbness, usually in the face, the arm, or the leg, generally only on one side of the body. Sudden confusion, trouble speaking or difficulty understanding speech. They suddenly have trouble seeing in one or both eyes, suddenly have trouble walking, dizziness, loss of balance, lack of coordination, or a severe headache that has no known cause, just kind of came out of nowhere. Again, it's suddenly. And acting, fast is important. Like, your chances of surviving a stroke are much better if you get treatment within the first 3 hours. So by treatment, getting them to a hospital is essentially what you got to do.
Seek medical care. Never be afraid to dial 911 if someone you think might need it.
Yep. And then with accidents, didn't talk about it too much, but in the CPR class, you learn how to do like the Heimlich and help someone who's choking, which choking falls under the accidents of 167,127 deaths. But there's a lot more things we can do to reduce accidents or just help after they're there. Now, me personally, I have a small med kit in my car that comes with me, goes when I switch cars, comes with me, has, stuff, jumpstart your car, do your tire pressure. It's got like 3 days worth of food, change of clothes, a few other things that I might need, toiletries, so I always have everything I need, but it's got a med kit on the side that's easily accessible. And I think most Americans should have that in their car. I'm not saying you carry a tourniquet around you everywhere you go, but, most workplaces have some kind of medical kit. And I think most people should have a med kit in their car, but not only that, know how to use it, know what's inside.
I would even say also just worry also about yourself. Like we said with driving, maybe be a little bit slower. Check your blind spots. These little things add up, and maybe it won't negatively affect you if you get in a car accident. You might be able to walk away, but it could lead to the death or injury of others. But if you take that second to check your blind spot, maybe go a little bit slower, just do these little things to avoid risk, it all adds up.
Yeah, and I want to kind of give a shout out to the Stop the Bleed program. And a lot of the first aid trainings you get, CPR kind of stuff, focuses on obviously CPR and stroke and a little bit on stopping the bleed, but the Stop the Bleed program wants to train all Americans to respond to trauma. Like we said, accidents being the third highest form of death in the United States. What if every American knew at some level how to, package a wound or just, apply, like stop, the faster the bleed is stopped, the more likely the person is to survive. So even though response times for emergency medical services are going down, if just the first person there can start the treatment process, their chances of survival goes drastically up. And so they're trying to teach people, what size bandage to use, how to, be safe yourself. You don't know the blood of the other person, what it has in it. Also how to use tourniquets, stuff like that that's going to prolong someone else's life and make that available to people and, encourage people to carry their own stuff just because you never know what's going to happen.
It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Exactly.
Well, Nick, if I can ask you a question, besides having a first aid kit, what else do you normally do to do risk conversion? Just something simple like check your shoes, make sure they are tied before you do a physical activity, or since you work in the woods a lot, make sure, your chainsaw is away or something.
So I always have water. That's the big one. I've ran out of water once and won't make that mistake again. I personally, working out in the woods and recreating a lot outside, I have a Garmin InReach that I can use to not only get my GPS position, but also send out an emergency text if I need it, or just simply call for help. Even if I'm out of service, it goes off through satellites, so I spend a lot of time out of service, still can text people, even just updates like made it to camp. If I'm going somewhere new, I like it for doing a hike or something, I'd always have a map, kind of have a rough plan of where I'm going, where I'm sleeping. But in my everyday rig, my work rig and my personal truck, like I said, I have my first aid kit that comes back and forth with me, and then I have on my backpack that has clothes and everything, food. I like to have food in my vehicle. Some people say don't keep food in your vehicle, it'll attract rats, but I'd rather, like you said, have it and not need it, and I haven't had any problems with it. It's not open food, it's all packaged. Also, some kind of thermal protection, like a blanket or something something that, if you get stuck in the snow somewhere, you're not going to freeze to death. I have a tow strap for my pickup that I can pull out myself, and a handyman jack so I can pull myself out. More likely just pull someone out, or someone will help hook up to me. I have jumper cables in case you need jump, but I also have just like a jump starter, just so that if there's no one around, I can still jump my own car. I don't want to be stuck out in the woods, basically, is a lot of this.
We carry very similar things in the back of our vehicles, but something very simple that I do in my field is I make sure I'm actually wearing my safety glasses. Just something simple, and it always drives me crazy when people aren't wearing their safety glasses. It takes 5 seconds to put them on, and it might save your vision for your entire life. It's risk versus reward. If I don't put these on, I guess it won't be uncomfortable, but if I put them on, I protect my eyes from any flying projectiles. Seems like a very pro thing to put on your safety glasses, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, definitely. And I get it. Like that's the thing, right? There's a lot of shit you got to do just to be safe and whatever. Like my wife's not making me, it's something I should do. Be better about putting on sunscreen. Like I said, I work outside all the time. And so I get, hit with a lot of radiation just because see the sun a lot, which is, exactly where I wanted to be. But so that's something I got to get better at. And every little thing does add time to your day. I get it. Like putting on the safety glasses, finding your glasses, putting on your sunscreen, doing all the stuff. It's just, you never know when not having it is that time. And that's part of the thing for me. Like communication is big. Working out far away from people, I always want to make sure that if something happens, I can communicate, whether I have like a company radio or my inReach where I can text people, because you never know. And if you can't talk to people, odds are you're gonna have to crawl out of that hole yourself. But it'd be better if someone's waiting at the top of the hill to take you in.
I think you said it with a nuisance. A small nuisance might save your life. I think it's worth it. And I imagine a lot of people where these accidents happen wish they did do it. So why not learn from their mistakes, or learn from the terrible thing that happened to other people?
Exactly. I think what it comes down to is forward planning, like we talk about a lot, that we tend to, for a country that has anxiety about what's happening next, we tend to live in the moment on a lot of things too. And we don't really think about, okay, well, if I don't bring enough water, or I don't bring enough this, what could happen? Or if I get stuck in the snow, what could happen?
Yeah, I would definitely say sometimes just pausing and thinking about what you're going to do or something that might happen is important. Just to plan out, to think ahead, could save your life.
Yep. So kind of wrap it up. Exercise is important to stay off that list. It's one of the big parts of it. And then be prepared for everyday things. Just, you never know when an accident's going to happen in the workplace, driving to work. I mean, accidents are the third leading cause of death. You never know when you might run into an accident. It's not uncommon for people to, be driving somewhere and witness an accident. Instead of waiting for someone to get there from 911, if you're able to immediately provide aid, that person has a more likely chance to live.
I would also say, to add on to that, Nick, is pause, think ahead. So that way you're not that person who's waiting for 911. If you thought about it, like, okay, this is where I'm going to drive, this is where I'm going to hike, so I planned it out so I won't be in an emergency situation, then you don't have to rely on someone to come in to help you. You've helped yourself.
Exactly. And getting a little bit off topic here, but yeah, you don't want to be those hikers who get lost in whatever wilderness for 5 days or so because you wandered off a trail without a map or a compass. Those two things can save your butt And I think we're going to do a whole podcast sometime on recreating responsibly outside, but just be prepared and think ahead and, think about what you're doing. If you don't spend much time out in the woods and you're just going to go bushwhacking in unfamiliar terrain and then trying to rely on people to find you without any communication or letting people know where you were going, this is exactly what happens. You make the news.
Hikers eaten by mountain lions.
Yep. Bring bear spray or a gun if you're going into territory where you aren't the apex predator. Thanks for listening to the Backyard Philosophy Podcast. We rarely finish a podcast without missing a point we wanted to bring up, so let us know what we forgot. And if you have a topic you want us to talk about, let us know at Backyard Philosophy on Instagram and Backyard Philosophy Podcast on Facebook.